So it's the mid game. You walk out of base, arrive on the map, and your support decides that right now is the best time to recall and buy a glowing mote and a fairy charm. And boom, all of a sudden a massive teamfight breaks out. You now have to fight 4v5, but it's okay. Supports are useless anyway, we all know that, and you're Faker in disguise. So you somehow manage to kill everyone on the enemy team. Great job. What should we do now though? Well, your ADC pings mid tower. Your top laner pings dragon. Your jungler runs straight to the enemy Gromp camp, and your support recalls to buy a second fairy charm. And here you are, frozen in time, having to decide between all of these different options of where to go and what to do. So what should you do? Well, in today's video, we're going to talk about maximizing the reward of winning fights. So what is the value of taking each and every one of League's neutral objectives? How quickly should you prioritize recalling? Should you all group mid and push 2 towers, or instead fan out and take one of the side lane towers instead? Trust me when I say this video is going to go in depth into this topic and most likely change the way you think about one of the most important decisions that you have to make every single game. And by the end of it, you're not going to think, what can I take of these death timers? We're going to start looking forward further into the future where we learned how to think of the big picture. Now, very quickly, I wanted to let you know that for the next few days, I'm running a bit of a Black Friday sale over on my website. So if you want to scoop up one of my guides or grab some coaching hours in bulk, now is the moment to do it, where you can get it all for a price cheaper than you'll ever see again. Oh, and I've just added gifting as a feature as well. So if your friends are bad at League, you can book them coaching or buy them a guide as a gift for Christmas just to let them know. So just head on over to coachrogue.com to check that out. But enough shilling my products, let's roll the intro.
My name's Rogue and I played League of Legends professionally for 7 years. Now I'm a full-time content creator and coach for all ranks Iron through to Challenger. So if you want more information of what a coaching session with me will look like, you can find more information by following the link in the video description below.
Things will get more complex later on into the video, but for now let's start by simply breaking down the value of each objective on the map so you have a better idea of what they're worth in terms of their value, and you can be better informed in the decision of what to take, starting with Dragon. Now, back when I made a video on the bounty system, I discovered that the game considers the value of each dragon a team has taken to be worth the equivalent of 1,000 gold when it calculates bounties, which gives us a good baseline to start on. Now, it was originally my intention to try and give gold values of each objective around the map, but with a neutral objective like this that has a percent scaling passive that changes depending on the game time and element of the dragon, it's a bit impossible. So instead, we're going to look at how your expected win rate changes with each neutral objective taken. Now, taking the first dragon, for example, increases your team's chance to win the game by a sizable 6%. We'll see how that number compares to other neutral objectives in the game, and we'll fill out a list as we go and then rearrange it at the end. Now, all of the stats I'm using for this portion of the video are taken from the guys over on the Broken by Concept podcast. Curtis and Rippy are 2 former pro players I used to play against in the Pro League myself, and they now have their own YouTube channel where they talk about all things League. They had a data scientist sample 30,000 games in order to find win rate increases for neutral objectives taken, and these are where these numbers are from. So I'll leave a link to that video so you can go follow their channel and check it out for yourself. Okay, so Dragon's a 6% increase to your win rate. What about other early game neutral objectives? Let's say the Void Grubs. Well, as always, it's hard to calculate. The stat they gave is that Void Grubs is a 1.37% win rate increase if you get 1 or more, which obviously doesn't mean much since this could mean you get anywhere between 1 to 3 of them. My logic here is let's just assume you got all 3, so we'll multiply the number by 3 and put a big asterisk on this one because it's really hard to give a good answer. Moving on to the later stages of the game, and our Rift Herald has finally spawned, and this objective stats confirmed exactly what I thought for ages now. Getting Rift Herald is a win rate increase of only 1.5%. Yep, Rift Herald absolutely sucks. And for the past year now, I've been actively giving up Rift Herald in all of my games to trade it for cross-map plays, and it's worked out great for me. So don't worry about Rift Herald too much, it's not the end of the world if you lose it. Now moving on even later into the game, we have the spawn of Atakan. If you're familiar with my channel, you know I'm Atakan's biggest fan, and I've made tons of videos on it by now. And spoiler alert, Atakan is the single most impactful objective in the entire game, giving you an 8.82% higher chance to win the game if you manage to get it. No surprises there. The trend that's starting to appear here is that objectives like Dragon and Atakan that give permanent buffs to your team generally correlate to a higher win rate increase. I suspect this is simply because in the chaos of solo queue games, people throw leads pretty often, but these buffs are non-transferable and will always remain with you and your team and be useful even in situations where you throw. Now we're coming up on the fastest possible dragon soul you can get at about 21 to 22 minutes. So if you get 4 dragons and manage to claim the dragon soul, you're looking at a 6.15% win rate chance increase. This is a really good moment to take a pause for a second and clarify something. Don't mistake these stats we're using for win rate stats. For example, a team who gets Dragon Soul is almost certainly going to be winning the game already at this point, at cost of the fact they have the first 3 dragons and pretty often a gold lead at this point. So at the moment before they get the Dragon Soul, they're going to be massively advantaged and thus more likely to win the game already, which is why a team who gets a Dragon Soul is expected to win around 90% of the games if you look at those stats. But the act of getting the Dragon Soul itself wasn't the only thing that caused them to win 90% of the time. These stats I'm using in this video are showing you how much the chance to win the game increases by taking the neutral objective. So for example, a team could already have an 84% chance to win the game because they already have an existing lead by the act of getting the first 3 dragons and the gold lead. But the act of getting that final Dragon Soul bumps it up to a 90% chance to win, thus giving us that 6% increase in expected win rate. Now there's just 2 objectives left before we have a complete picture of them all, so let's fill this in quickly. Next up is Baron. Baron is a temporary buff, which is a downside, but the combat power it gives you is staggering, and the extreme majority of people truly don't understand the extent of how strong this buff is, so they overlook it. Baron buff speeds up your recalls and empowers minions, which you all know about, but what people don't know about is that it also gives your team just over 1,500 gold, a couple levels worth of XP, and an insane amount of AD and AP that itself scales with the game time. The weakest version of this buff, given from a Baron taken shortly after spawn, already gives you a staggering 6,500 gold worth of AD and AP for your team, but this number can balloon to be even higher when the Baron is taken later into the game. Now of course, not everyone on your team is going to make an efficient use of both of these stats, but when you see the numbers are truly this staggering, it really cannot be understated the incredible value that you get in combat from a Baron buff, especially if you plan to fight a neutral like Soul or Elder Dragon in the coming minutes with it. So if you have to choose between taking a tower and an inhib or something, or taking a Baron, please take the Baron. 9 times out of 10 when I coach people below the Apex tiers, they are choosing inhibs over Baron, and it is killing me at this point. Take the Baron, guys. It's overpowered. Oh, I'm supposed to give you the stats here as well, aren't I? 6.2% is the magic number. Still in the higher end of our list, but of course, it's a little bit lower because the vast majority of these benefits are lost on death. And as we already mentioned, people love to die and throw a lead, don't they? Which is why Baron loses out to Adakon here, despite the fact that the Baron buff is objectively stronger in every way. The downside is, it just gets lost on death. So now we're down to our final objective, the Elder Dragon. And this one we can already assume is going to be pretty impactful. We all know the fighting into Elder Dragon is basically impossible, so if you get Elder Dragon, you probably just insta-win the game. And as expected, Elder Dragon sitting at a very comfortable 8.29%. Let's add that onto our list. And honestly, I think all of our OCD is going crazy right now, so let's rearrange the list while we're at it and order things from most to least impactful. And incredibly, Adakon is the most impactful objective in the game. Not only does it give a huge benefit, but you cannot throw the buff, which is a pretty common trend we see here. Elder and Baron are of course close to the top of the list because they just give absolutely staggering buffs. All the way at the bottom, we see things like Void Globs and Rift Herald. Void Globs are situationally useful and don't do much if you throw a game or throw the early gold lead you got because of them. And Rift Herald of course is last. It requires way too much skill to use correctly, and in the vast majority of the time, people in low ranks probably forget to pick it up and just leave it on the floor. I suspect if we reran these numbers and sorted them by rank, the trend you'd see is very obvious. In high rank games, the impact of objectives like Void Grubs, Herald, Baron, and Elder Dragon would go up, since players would know how to use them better, be less likely to waste the buffs, or throw a gold lead obtained through these objectives or things like Rift Herald and Void Grubs. So for the vast majority of you out there, the advice is really simple. Focus on getting dragons, focus on getting Adakon, and if you get a Baron buff, please, for the love of God, don't waste it. So that's what all of the objectives are worth, but that only answers half of this video's question. What should we do after a team fight? Specifically, should we run mid and rush down 2 towers, or should we fan out and get 1 tower in mid and 1 tower in a side lane? As always, it's again going to be complicated, but as a really cool attention-grabbing segue, I've got a great question for you. How much damage do you think that this minion wave will do to the tower if the tower is left undefended on the crash? Well, let's hit play and find out. I was genuinely shocked the first time I actually took the time to check and get the answer, because the answer is about 2,000 tower damage. A minion wave in the mid game will take half a tower on its own if left unanswered on a wave crash. And not only will that team lose 2000 tower damage, but also all of the golden XP from that wave. And the next wave, since the following wave will always have time to half crash into the tower, thus denying 2 waves. For these reasons, a wave crashing into a side lane tower must always be answered in the mid game, even if the champion isn't present to hit the tower. And because of this, side lane macro is made really cool. Now, if we we're going to apply this rule, our Darius player would have to get back top lane in order to defend his tower right now. So he's going to do that. He's going to come top, he's going to clear this wave out from in front of his tower. Now, after clearing this wave, he doesn't have to come top for a total of probably 10 seconds till the next wave gets here. So what he's going to do is he's going to walk up and clear that wave. Great job, Darius. Now, because of the length of the lane, our Darius player doesn't have to come back to the wave hits the tower, which is probably at this point going to take about 30 seconds if there's someone here to push it. But our Darius player is going to keep pushing, so he now kills off yet another wave. So now, due to the length of the side lane, our Darius player doesn't have to come back to top lane for about a minute. Now, of course, the enemy needs to come here because, as we learnt, this wave is barreling into their tower, and if left unchecked, it'll probably single-handedly kill this tower or come very close, and also deny a champion kill worth of golden XP. Meanwhile, Darius has a 1 minute long roam timer. And this is how side lane macro works. You go to the side lane, you push out your wave and farm waves at an extremely fast rate in an extremely short amount of time, and then it forces your opponent to answer while you get the opportunity to fold in for an extended roam timer. As we said, it's taking a full minute for this wave to come in. That's a full minute our Darius player can run around and join grouped fights, and our opponent is pinned to the side lane. And this is somewhat the answer of what should we do post-team fight. It all plays into this narrative that pushing every single waves is giving extended roam timers, and in side lanes when they're this long, roam timers, in the case of killing this wave, can end up being extremely long. The next wave hasn't even spawned yet, and it needs to travel all the way into this tower, so our top laner here gets a huge roam timer. With this in mind, let's revisit this question from earlier. After winning a fight, should you group mid and force down multiple towers, or fan out and push in the side waves as well? Well, you can probably start to answer this question on your own and begin to see the consequence that both of these options will have on your future sequences. Now, jumping straight into the action, we're in the middle of a team fight, and this one's going pretty well for our hero Ryze and his teammates. They're mounting a nice little comeback. Mumu jumps in 1v4, kills himself for free. Love to see it. And we just scored an ace. Great job, red team. What do we do now? So, as always, people love the knee-jerk reaction of sprinting mid, but there's a problem with this. Pushing mid lane does not have any long-term repercussions. Mid waves arrive every 30 seconds. Once you clear it, the enemy catches it, it doesn't really matter going forward. It's just a handshake of waves every 30 seconds. So while my student in this case, who I was doing a live game with, sprints mid, I instantly redirect him to go push the side wave. So I get him to Ryze ult down there. Not only does this mean that while your teammates pick up mid waves, you can pick up side waves and side towers, which is just going to extend the reward of what you get, but taking side lanes allows you to extend the length of the lane, which extends the length of the roam timer as you're allowed to clear waves further up on the map. Now, because we went to the side wave and we've cleared out these waves, think about when it will be that Ryze needs to come back to the side wave. Well, we just killed the wave. The next wave doesn't even spawn for another 10 or 15 seconds, and then once it spawns, it has to travel this entire distance. So realistically, Ryze now has a roam timer of about a minute and a half. Meanwhile, the enemy team has not just one, but 2 waves worth of minions barreling at their tower. Of course, they need to defend it because these minions alone will all but kill the tower. So because we pushed in the side wave, out of base, the enemy is forced to go side lane, and then expend at least a minute to a minute and a half of their time pushing the side wave before we're forced to respond. Now, because we just won a team fight, and we got a tower, our Ryze player is most likely going to run away and take a recall. But here's the thing. Out of base, the enemy Veigar is forced to run bot lane and expend time pushing in the side wave in order to force a response. But our Ryze player, he doesn't need to go bot lane yet, does he? So what he does is he opens up through mid. So now on the following sequence out of base, we're running mid with Jax, with Ryze, and with Jhin. Meanwhile, the enemy is forced to send someone side lane on both sideways, meaning coming out on the map of this following sequence, it is 3v5. 5 in the center of the map. And very often, you can just sprint out and just catch unsuspecting ADCs or people who are contesting mid waves and face checking for vision, all at a point where they have teammates showing in a side lane because you pushed in the side wave post teamfight on the last sequence. So to answer the question of what to do post teamfight, well, if it's Dragon or Raticon on the line, make sure you get it. They give you the biggest noob-proof buff of any neutral objective and you can't throw it. But if there's no objectives and you have to choose between pushing mid and taking jungle camps, or splitting up from your team to push out more side waves, the answer is you should pretty much always fan out as much as you can across the map to get the biggest possible advantage coming out of base on the following sequence by having your sideways pushed in. Now, if you love this last tip on side lane macro, then you'll be sure to love the series of guides I have available on my website, coachrogue.com. This tip was actually one I taught in part 4 of my mid lane guide, so if you want to learn more awesome things like this, I encourage you to make use of the Black Friday sale I'm running right now and go check out those guides. Otherwise, thanks for watching guys, remember to sub, have a great day.